Glad everybody get on. It's good to see some of you. We did not, this is not being done as a webinar. It's being done as just a regular Zoom meeting. So you are able to unmute yourself. So by saying that, I'm also saying if you don't need to be, if you're not speaking, please do mute your microphone because we can mute you, but it's just if you can go ahead and mute yourself. But what our plan is, we do have some material we're going to present. And then we will open it up. At the end, we have several questions that were submitted previously, so we'll go through those questions first, and then we'll give you a chance to ask any other questions. So, all right, we're going to go ahead and get started. So again, welcome. We're grateful that you all are joining us this morning. We wanted to take the opportunity to just give you a little update. And I will make the disclaimer that this is an update as of today. Things change frequently and quickly. So what we tell you today, and especially if you happen to be listening to this because we are recording, and you're listening to this beyond, what is today, June 4th, some of the information could be dated. So just be aware of that. Our plan is to talk a little bit about our gratitude for the generosity of the community, the revenue that was raised, and then let you know what the impact of that was. We will talk then about the current status of the refugees who arrived in those last couple of months, as well as provide you with an update about the refugee program as we know it right now, and our plans as we're moving forward, and then a chance to know what our needs are, because we continue to have needs. And then, as I said, we'll go through your questions at the end. So I have asked Pastor Kevin to open us today in prayer, and then we will get started.
Thank you, Connie. Please join your hearts and your minds together with me in this moment of prayer. Well, gracious and holy God, you have called us to be your hands and your feet in the work of caring for those in great need. You've brought this group of people together along with hundreds of others who have heard that call and have brought forth their best gifts to make a difference. As we give this update, O God, we ask that you fill us with your sense of what the future might be. That is a future that is assured in your Son, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, thank you so much.
That as we walk along, that we might be ever more confident of your abiding presence in the work that we do, and that we will see the path that you have laid before us and the challenges and the opportunities that we can rise to meet as we seek to continue to proclaim your love and your grace in a world where it seems that that is no longer a welcome attribute. So for this we pray, and for every one of us in this meeting, and for all for whom we are concerned, we lift this to you in the name of your Son. Amen.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Let's go ahead and share our first slide. I assume everybody knows who I am. I should probably introduce myself. I'm Connie Phillips. I'm the CEO here at Lutheran Social Services, and I have asked several of our team members to join us and speak on as we're talking to you today. So I'll try to remember to tell you who they are, but I will also tell you that I'm terrible about titles, so they may have to tell you their titles. I just know they're all great team members who are doing amazing things here at Lutheran Social Services. So Jillian, if you can share that first slide. We are so grateful to just let you know that over this last 4 months, since the end of January, since really February through May, there have been 456 donors that have given a total of $600,721, which is phenomenal. I mean, it's just phenomenal. And I can't even express how grateful I am for the people that have given so generously. A little, a lot, what you had, the widow's mite, the large amounts, it's just been incredible. We've had some foundations, we've had some family foundations, we've had individuals. We've had many congregations that have come together and made this possible. And I will tell you that without your gifts, we absolutely could not have continued to serve the people who we have done in the last 4 months. You've also stepped up, and we've had 12 co-sponsor teams join us since January, which is phenomenal. We were really struggling with these, and 12 of you have come together, and then 3 more are in process. And we've had 54 individual refugee volunteers that have started since January, 32 in Tucson and 22 in Phoenix. And we're just so, so grateful for that. And I have asked Dragan Supotic to, he is the director of our Refugee and Immigration Services, to talk with you a little bit about the impact, about what those funds have been used for. So I'm going to turn you over to Dragan.
Thank you, Connie. Good morning, everyone. I would say our friends, and just to tell you how much we really appreciate your help and funding that we were able to raise during this unprecedented times, starting in January with recent arrivals, and suddenly no federal payments were received, and you are all aware how that really impacted the families that just arrived. And of course, with families that we welcomed them at airport and brought them into housing that we secure, we couldn't guarantee any further payments for their housing until they stabilize. And this is time when you really stepped up and helped us to help these families and go to the crisis in their path to self-sufficiency. As we told you in our kind of pledge for the help, uncertainty and freeze of funding that was obligated to refugees really impacted us in daily operations, and we had to pursue and provide services for our recent arrivals. But again, since we didn't have money to pay basic needs, we really relied on your help. So in my 28 years being in the LSS and running this program, never seen situation like this. And really, this was the sign of how much our community and our funders are really open to support family in need. We understand decisions that are made in some ways, but again, that level of humanity that you showed up by giving your funds really ended up in the right hands. I can tell you that from the top level of refugee program. As you can see here, majority of funding that Connie mentioned went indirectly into help for families that they just arrived and we were navigating their benefits. So a total of 271,000 so far was spent for the rent. Out of that, Tucson 99,000 and Phoenix 171. In addition, of course, for the rent, our major support was toward utilities as well. And you can move to the next slide. Again, some apartment, they have utilities included in the rent, some don't. So we have to make sure that those people don't have electricity cut down or water or anything. So majority of the funding was really meant to support, to provide roof. Food and other necessity we were able to secure to funding that was available for our new clients, but rent and utilities were really not. So at this point, just to give you a little sense, I will ask Sarah, our associate director for Phoenix, and Amelia, who is the program director in Tucson, just to share a couple of stories of families that really are example. Each of them are very similar that was helped. And go ahead, Sarah, you may start first.
Can you do the next slide before you go there, Jillian? So
Oh,
just so you
yeah,
have a
yeah.
sense, there were 190 families that received support during this time, 120 in Phoenix and 70 in Tucson. And that's the last of the slides. Additionally, and I didn't put it on the slide, there was another $35,000 that was spent on other needs, just things that just needed to be paid for. So if you can go ahead, and that's the last of the slides. So you can take the slides off, Jillian.
Go ahead,
Sarah.
Sarah or Amelia, whoever wants to
Yeah,
share, and I have just some other stuff. Yeah.
I can go first. My name is Sarah Anas. I am the Associate Director of Refugee Services with LSS. I was told this morning if I can collect some stories, some inspiring stories of how the funding impacted our clients and the work that we do. And within a couple of minutes of talking to the team, I gathered so many stories that I was very overwhelmed and truly inspired. And I hear stories every day, obviously, but I wanted to make sure I gather more updated information. And I don't want to share all of the stories. I'm happy to have maybe Jillian, our communication person, share a couple of them. But to highlight, I will share the story of one of our single mom. She came from Syria and she has two disabled daughters. So usually it takes a few months for us to be able to get their paperwork for getting disability, caregiving support for the mother to be able to take care of her daughter and get paid. In the meantime, we need support to be able to pay for her rent. So we've been assisting her for a few months of rent through the funding. And I heard the success that we were able to secure an affordable housing for her. So not only she was able to get assistance through rent, but the team was able to go out of their way and apply low-income housing for her. And now she has only a couple of $100 of rent, which we will be able to manage, and she can soon manage on her own by getting the caregiver payment herself. And another story I heard was two elderly couple that once they came to US, it seems like their adult children kind of moved out and they're on their own. And we just found out that they have gotten so many eviction notices and so much going on that they weren't even aware of it themselves. So the staff found out about it and were able to help them right away. And this was very, very critical and important because they were in the process of getting their SSI approved, and SSI will not get approved if they have court dates. So they had court dates, and we were able to quickly step in, use the funding to pay for their rent so that we can remove the court date and everything is sorted out. So now they're on the right path to get their SSI and be self-sufficient on their own. Again, I have so many stories, but I don't want to take too much of time, and I'll let Amelia share something she has from Tucson. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Amelia Smith. I'm the resettlement director in our Tucson office. One of the stories that I would like to share with you is we have a family that we're serving, mom and dad and 9 children, and they are a family from Syria. And when they arrived, dad was very willing to work, but it's hard for him to work because due to an explosion in Syria, his body has shrapnel in it, and they were never able to remove it until he came to Tucson. So, dad is working as many hours as he possibly can to support his family and trying really hard. But also with working with our team and with the funding that we received, we were able to help them with some of their housing and utilities while dad is getting the medical attention that he needs. And that includes having all the shrapnel removed from his body. The doctors are reporting that once that is removed and he's gone through therapies, he should be able to work full time to be able to support his family. Mom is not able to work due to her medical conditions. So also working with the team, we're working on getting SSI and additional income so that the family is able to be self-sufficient on their own. But this funding was definitely helpful for this family in being able to provide for their 9 children. And while being able to take care of themselves and in the future be able to support themselves and integrate into the community as a family. So thank you.
Thank you, Amelia. I just want to conclude with how refugee resettlement works is based on early self-sufficiency. And while this gap that we experienced in few months really helped us to support and stabilize family, of course, our ultimate goal is to make them self-sufficient. Our self-sufficiency rate on 6 months is over 80%. So what we are working right now is, yeah, refugee crisis is still there because there is a limited amount of the federal or any other support, but employment is the key. If anybody is over 18 and healthy to work, our goal is to make them employed. So we have very successful last few months in stabilizing families through employment. We have in 2016 employed individuals, and 28 still looking for job, and 38 in Phoenix got the job in the last few months, and 18 are still pending. So we are pretty close to almost employed everyone. Of course, we are getting into summer season with jobs that are mostly in hospitality industry that they don't hire much, but that's something that we used to work and we will work on it. But of course, we will still rely on the funding that we were able to get from you to help some of these families if emergency crisis happen. Again, to conclude, thank you so much again for your help, for your support, for your uh, just generosity, when it comes to identifying vulnerable people that we served. They were legally admitted here. We were helping them, and this all changes in administration, is cause that things really dropped these families in the limbo. So thank you again, and
Thanks. Thanks, Dragan. And you're going to hear from Dragan again in a little bit. So I'm going to ask Jenny if she'll introduce Jill.
Yes. So, hi, everybody. I'm Jenny Tatum. I'm the Director of Volunteer Engagement. And I get the great honor of working with the volunteers and co-sponsors that you heard about that have really just jumped in to assist our families. And we have one that's here today. Jill Hamilton has not just jumped in January. She's been with us for several years as a co-sponsor. And we just asked her to share a couple thoughts around what it's been like to be a co-sponsor or what successes she's seen with her family. Whatever you'd like to share, Jillian, we'd love to hear from you. So thanks.
Thank you. First of all, Jenny's fantastic. Aside from that, my day job, I'm the medical director at Hospice of the Valley, working with people with dementia. So everybody gets worse, even though it's very rewarding. So this work with refugees is so incredible because people fly. So right now I have two teams of 5 people each. I'm with the Unitarian Church, but they're not all members of the church. In one family, she's from Venezuela. She has a 9-year-old daughter and a 1-year-old son. And she had a job, finally got a job washing dishes at Grand Canyon, but for the 4 months of the summer, they have no work. So we did a GoFundMe campaign, one of our members, which I never even thought of, and we raised $3,500, and she's at ASU's global launch doing intensive English because it's really hard to get a good job unless you know English. So we raised the funding for that and the babysitting and her rent for the summer. So that's really cool. And then the other family really reaches my heart. The father has spinal muscular atrophy. They're from Afghanistan, and he can't move his legs at all, and he can't even move his arms up to feed himself. So when we started, she was being paid 30 hours a week through Altex to care for him, and I thought that's crazy. So we got the hours increased, and I got him set up at Barrows St. Joe's to get a better neurological evaluation. And one of us every day is going in to teach English to the family through ABC English because we think he could work. He's very smart. We think he could work with a computer once he knows English, but English is everything. Thank you. Thank you so much, Connie and Jenny, because this is so rewarding and everybody on the team just loves it. So
Thank you, Jill. We're really grateful for you. And I know there's others on the call today that are currently doing co-sponsorship or have done co-sponsorship, and we will continue to need co-sponsors going forward. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing. It's so important. All right, we're going to switch gears a little bit, and I'm going to introduce Caitlin Gonzalez, and Caitlin will she's going to talk a little bit about all of the court orders. She is our designated keeper tracker of everything happening with the court orders. So, Caitlin.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to be on the call with you. So there are many court orders, and as I was reviewing all of them, I realized we could probably do a whole series of calls about all of the court orders, but I'll just touch on the main ones and the ones that have mostly been in the news and that you may be the most familiar with, also the ones that are impacting our clients the most. The first is the Pacito versus Trump case. That's the one that's made all the headlines. It was in response to the administration's executive order, effectively ending the refugee resettlement program. Now, as with all of the court cases that are happening, it's been whiplash. It was the resettlement program was suspended, and then injunctions came across that said no, it's not suspended, but then the administration didn't make moves, and so then it kept going back and forth. So the long story short on this case is where we stand right now. They have found that it is the last judge said it was okay to keep the ban in place for the most part, but there have to be exceptions. Some of those exceptions are for Afghan individuals who did help our country, and others are for those who are in a similar state to Pacito, who was the main plaintiff in the case. People who had travel plans in place, who had booked, who had gone through all of the vetting, had approved travel, and then it was canceled last minute. These will be done on a case-by-case basis, and it won't be in a high number. There's tens of thousands of refugees who had their travel canceled, but they're expecting maybe a few hundred to be approved on this case-by-case basis. The administration, well, one of the offices of the administration has lifted the RNP, the Refugee Resettlement Complete ban, to allow some immigrants to get processed. Some of those will be these that are coming through on a case-by-case basis. Others are for a small number of Afrikaners that they want to allow into the country. And I know that we had some questions on that, and our team will go over that a little bit later. So that's where that case stands. The ban is still in place, but with a few lifts and a few injunctions have said, no, we do have to let a few of the most vulnerable come through. Another case, well, there's several, but all regarding parolees. The administration also signed executive orders and had statements that would end parole for some of our special populations. The Supreme Court actually just last week said that, yes, the administration is allowed to end the parole status for Cuban, Haitian, Nicaraguan, and Venezuelans. This is expected to affect about 500,000 legal migrants in our country who will lose their status as a protected status. So what that means is if they haven't applied for some other type of legal status, if they haven't applied for asylum or for a different form of permanent residency, then as soon as this goes into effect, they will no longer be in the country legally and will be eligible for deportation. Now, even though the Supreme Court ruled that for Cuban, Haitian, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans, there are other groups that are still protected, and there are other court cases that are still going on back and forth about this same topic. A third one that you may have heard a lot about is the administration invoking the Alien Enemies Act, which was a World War Act that was used to authorize the immediate removal of people without permanent resident status who they believe are in a threat to the US without due process. This is still working its way through many courts. Most of the people affected are Venezuelans. And some judges are saying, yes, it's legal, and other judges are saying, no, it's not legal. We expect that this will go up to the Supreme Court. And then the final bill that I know we have some questions about later that we'll talk about more is the budget reconciliation bill, or the big beautiful bill. There's many, many pieces to this, but how it would most impact our refugees and why we're keeping such a close look on it. In the bill, there is language that would render all refugees and other ORR eligible people, so asylum seekers, survivors of human trafficking, special immigrant visas, it would render them ineligible for Medicare, Medicaid, any of the Affordable Care Act marketplace, and SNAP. And SNAP is the food stamps. This is a departure. All of those have been approved for refugees and other eligible populations on a bipartisan level for many years. But that language is in the bill. And it would also severely restrict the type of immigrant who would be eligible for federal financial aid for schooling. It would disqualify refugees, asylum seekers SIVs in many of those population. And that obviously affects our refugees. In many ways, we heard stories of families who need these type of benefits to get to self-sufficiency and to integrate into the community. So those are just the four that I wanted to touch on. Again, there are literally thousands of court cases going through right now. And hopefully we'll get some good news. A lot of the courts have been putting things in place, injunctions in place to say a lot of this can't be done the way it's being done. But there hasn't been a lot of action to correct what the courts are saying aren't maybe legal or aren't constitutional ways of handling this. So I'm sure there'll be questions on that, but that's just what I wanted to share with the group.
Thanks, Caitlin. I appreciate your summarizing that. And we do have some other questions that you've submitted that we'll address in a minute. I just wanted to clarify, you all are aware, I think, that Lutheran Social Services, we do not hold a direct contract for refugee resettlement. We are a partner. We have a national partner. In Tucson, it is Episcopal Migration Ministries, and in Phoenix, it's Global Refuge. Used to be Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Services, and you're all aware they've changed their name. You may have read about Episcopal Migration Ministries. They have decided to end their contract with the State Department and the Department of Health and Human Services for refugee services. So we have been notified that they are no longer going to be doing that work. So we will not have that affiliation after the 1st of October. Everything runs on a federal fiscal year, so we won't have that affiliation in Tucson. We will not have a national partner unless we reaffiliate with someone else. Global Refuge is continuing its partnership and continuing to work with Health and Human Services and with the Secretary of State's offices to provide refugee services, continuing to work with us as their affiliates in all of the states. So we continue those agreements and those contracts with them. We also have a contract with the state of Arizona. It is with the Department of Economic Security, Office of Refugee Resettlement. And that is federal money that comes to the state that is then redistributed to the refugee resettlement organizations in the state of Arizona. But all of that money comes from the federal government. There is no state money that goes into a refugee resettlement, no Arizona money. It's all money that comes from the federal government. And so we do have contracts, again, that go through June 30th that have now been extended to September 30th. While everyone waits to find out what is in going to be in the federal FY26 budget. So as Caitlin indicated, we are monitoring what's happening with the bill that's going through. I will be very honest with you that it is very discouraging. And that a lot of the money that is at the federal level is being removed. And so it is very likely that there will be very little money coming into the state for refugee services going forward, which means that at Lutheran Social Services, we really have to consider what we'll be able to do, because we are looking at a couple of scenarios, one of which is that there would be very little government support for any kind of refugee services. Now, there may be some other ways that we can approach that, some perhaps workforce development or other kinds of ways that simply people who are legally here and who came as refugees would be able to continue serving them under some different approaches. But we're in the process of really thinking that all through. And in the meantime, Christine, who is our CFO, Karen Banford, our Chief Program Officer, and myself just have sort of a mantra that we will do as much as we can for as many as we can for as long as we can, with the partnership of the community. And we will be looking at what we can continue, and we are planning scenarios around what we can continue to do, because it is our board of directors, many of whom are on the call right now, have committed that we will continue to provide services to people who have come as refugees and who are immigrants. We'll continue our immigration services. we will continue to provide everything we can, but it's going to have to look different. And so we're in that process of transition. And so we will need you even more. And as we're moving into the summer months, I've asked Jenny if she can kind of give us an update on what we're needing and what she's seeing and hearing from programs around volunteer in the community. And I will tell you that we will continue to need your financial support going forward because it is taking some time with the economy as it is, and it's the summer months, as Dragan mentioned, so employment becomes a little harder in Arizona, in Tucson and Phoenix, with many of the hospitality services not being as strong, and restaurants being impacted, and things that are happening make it difficult for our people to gain employment. So we will continue to need that kind of financial support. I will tell you that I've been chatting with some of our case managers, and they're working really hard, with the families to say, what can you bring? What can you do? Because we are not in a place to be able to just take care of everything. So this has got to be a partnership. So we are working very closely with the families to try to figure out, how we can all move forward together. But I've asked Jenny to talk specifically about what we're needing from a volunteer perspective.
Hi again, everyone. So yes, thank you, Connie. We do still need volunteers, and you can help, as you heard from Jill and others, as a group. So if you're here on behalf of your church or a family that would like to serve together, we can take more co-sponsors. And those are teams that walk alongside a family and help them with all those things from social needs, as well as some more technical things around helping read their mail and understand what it is, take them to appointments, things of that nature. And we ask for a 6-month commitment visiting weekly. Some teams go more often, but at least once a week visiting that family. And if you don't have a team or a group that you want to serve with, if you're looking to serve on your own as an individual, we would match you with one person. So we call that a first friend. Or in Tucson, we have a program specifically for youth in our Refugee Youth Mentorship Program. So we would match you with one individual refugee. And then it's not so overwhelming as one person to take on a whole family. We also do need help with job outreach. As you heard Dragan say, there are many refugees still looking for work. And so we are looking for people that are great at marketing, that would feel comfortable going in and to a business that could hire refugees and ask them if they would consider hiring our refugee friends, because they are people that may not stand out in a written resume or an electronic resume. And so if you as a volunteer would go out on behalf of them and let them know a little bit about that person or the people that we have looking for work, we would give you a list of places that you could go and visit and help people with that process. We also have needs for childcare. And so that allows people here at both our Phoenix and Tucson offices, the adults, to attend workshops and different meetings and things that they have here. The children can be taken care of at our site while the parents are in their classes. And then English tutoring is always a great need that can also be done one-on-one at the apartment of an individual mentee that we would match you with. On the in-kind side, we have 2 drives that we're running right now. In Tucson, we are having a baby shower for refugee mothers and fathers. And so that will happen on June 20th. We're asking for the gifts by June 12th, if possible, and that would be in the Tucson area. And then in both Tucson and Phoenix, we are supporting refugees, among other service areas of LSS, with our back to school drive. So that ends July 21st. So you can collect school supplies or backpacks, and those will be given out to students that will be entering a new school year starting the first week of August. So we would love those. In addition to the drives, we can always take things like cleaning supplies, toiletries, and gift cards. Gift cards are a great in-kind need because it allows the family to buy exactly their size or what is needed most. And if you have a question about any of those, you can always reach out to volunteers@lss-sw.org. If you don't remember one of our names, you can always reach that one, volunteers at, and it will come to us and we can answer any volunteer or donation questions. And Riley's on the call. She is in our Tucson office, and either myself or she will be able to assist.
Thanks, Jenny. All right, now several of you submitted questions, and so between Dragan and I think we're going to start going through those questions that have been submitted. If you have other questions, we'll go through these and then we'll open it up. So, Dragan, are the families we've sponsored in the past in danger of being deported?
Yeah, can you hear me? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. No, or not reported to us, really. We would probably know if that's happening. Of course, families are legally admitted, and we didn't hear any deportation.
Thanks. And what is the most needed right now? We just talked about that, so we're going to go on. I've talked about the status of LIRS and LSS, well, Global Refuge. Did you want to say anything more about that, Dragan?
Just the fact that Global Refuge, by accepting the settlement for remaining of the year, ORR, Office of Refugee Resettlement, and Department of State are kind of opened up back the contracts, but of course, Global Refuge National Office laid off all staff, so now they have only few people. Really, we are waiting for them to hire back staff to provide us guidance and support how we usually do the work. I think that's the one thing that is holding us, but there is a good programming through these programs that could carry us out through at least remaining of this year. But nothing is easy these days. Thank you.
No. And you asked about any contractual relationship between the VOLAGs, which is the voluntary organizations. There's 11 of them, Dragan, now, I think, nationally.
There were 10 and two
10.
dropped.
Dropped.
U.S. Catholic Conference of Bishops, pretty much Catholics, and EMM pulled out.
Pulled
Now
out.
there are only 8 left.
And so there is, though, currently a contractual relationship between the Department of State and those organizations, right?
Correct.
They did reinstate those contracts.
Correct.
What is the status of the SIV visas for Afghanistan persons who worked for the U.S. troops, Dragan?
You probably heard on the news that's the kind of population that really we all feel we need to somehow help them, but because of restrictions on travel and all of them, they lifted the way how they can travel to US on their own with visa, and then they would walk into offices across the country, including our office, and receive services that are currently available for them because things are changing almost every week, in terms of what else they can get. But yes, it appears that SIVs are on top kind of population that this administration also looking to help somehow. But again, with all chaotic things that happened in the last few months, it's really very, very confusing. And with these contracts up and down, we don't really know. But they are coming and we will be seeing some of them and provide them services as they walk into our offices in Phoenix and Tucson.
Did or will LSS accept refugee Afrikaners? I told Dragan I would answer this one. So LSS has not been asked to resettle anyone from South Africa at this time. Global Refuge has said that they will accept and resettle people from South Africa. And some of the other LSS organizations among the affiliates have received them. We've been told that most of the Afrikaners will go to, they're trying to place them in rural areas because they're coming from a farming background. It is unlikely Arizona will be asked to or would be sent anyone. We've had conversation at our own staff level. We've wrestled and grappled with this, spoken with some of our donors and our board. We do not believe that they meet the criteria for refugees. However, we have never been the ones who decided who comes. That's never been our job. Our role is simply to welcome the stranger when they come to the state, and we are told they're coming, here they are. Our job is to welcome them. And so we did say that we would be willing to resettle. We thought it was in line with our mission. Now, you may disagree, and I am really happy to have follow-up, not happy, but I am willing and open to having follow-up conversations around this. I think this is a conversation that can continue. And so if you have strong concerns or you want to have a follow-up conversation, will you please just reach out to me and we can set up a time to talk later. But at this time, no, we haven't received anyone. We actually don't anticipate receiving anyone, but we have not stated that we would not take them. We have said that we will welcome, we will do our mission, and we will welcome the stranger who is sent through our affiliation with Global Refuge. Okay, I'm going to go on. If Trump's proposed legislation passes the Senate, how will Medicaid cuts affect our refugees? I believe we've already spoken to that. Are the current refugees who are in the U.S. now safe from ICE and deportations? Again, Dragan, yes, we think that they are.
General feeling, you probably, I mean, you are friends of our program for years, and when some population is targeted, generally you don't feel safe. That's kind of general answer. Because you can see in the news every day, things are mixed, legal, refugees. People are really confused about what exactly their status is and how they are safe. According to legal status that refugees are admitted, they are safe from any type of deportation, unless they commit some crime, that's something that nobody can protect you for that. They had to adjust their status to green card after they were admitted as a refugee after 1 year being in US. There is a process application for green card, and you are safe. When you do all this stuff on time, you are safe. There is no concerns, at least at this point.
Thanks. So now these are some newer questions that have come in. What's happening with the Afghani refugees who settled in Tucson? Is there anything specific about that?
I would say Amalia and Amelia can kind of, but really there is no difference between any family that settled in Phoenix or Tucson. We are providing support, like Connie mentioned, through funding that we still have available to the state funds, at least to September. And working with the community and really make this family self-sufficient. That's ultimate goal, So, and I know there was one more question about our current refugees in a risk of having their legal status revoked. This is really a question that comes as legally, it is very difficult to revoke someone refugee status. But as we could see in the last few months, everything is possible. Generally, only head of Department of State and DHS have authority on case by case to revoke someone refugee status. But as a general under the Immigration and Nationality Act, that's not possible. So.
There was a question of if there's any possibility of funds being paid for the expenses we've already incurred. Can we go back and bill some of the expenses we've incurred?
Really, nah, no.
Okay.
Reason is just these contracts were open and closed, and expenses were already booked. We paid things, and the level of funding that right now are on the books available, but in reality, it's impossible to get invoicing back to those funds.
And then what's the possibility of refugees being allowed in during the next 3.5 years? Do you have a crystal ball?
To be realistic, and as you, Connie, said, we know the general feeling of appear to be that refugees and some other immigrants are not welcome to this country by majority of people. So that's the fact. 70 plus million people disagree with that, but majority does. It is unfortunately political, unfortunately that we are at this point dealing with this because for decades and decades this was bipartisan supported program, nothing had to do with politics, and here we are. I don't see any big changes in terms of the numbers for in next 3 years. If anything, it will be very small and limited refugee program in US.
And then yes, I agree. And then the last question that's written here is, since the federal government has ended the refugee program as we know it, what will LSS's primary focus be going forward? As I said, it is our intent to continue serving refugees in some form that we can figure out. In the meantime, we have other things that we do at Lutheran Social Service that are also part of stabilizing lives, building a foundation, and preserving dignity and respect. And so we have a very large older adult population program in Southern Arizona, working with people who are homebound primarily. We do in-home support. We deliver Meals on Wheels. We do grocery shopping. We also work in child welfare, mostly right now in Maricopa County, where we're supporting foster families and kinship care. We have 3 family resource centers and 2 food pantries. So we will continue to work with people who are having difficulty meeting their basic needs and who are being impacted by humanitarian crisis. So our focus will remain. We will be smaller, but we will still be a large nonprofit. I don't see a way that we're not going to be a large nonprofit. And when I say large nonprofits, that's usually anything over 5 million. So I believe we will continue to be a large nonprofit in the foreseeable future. And a lot of that is because we have a very strong community support system. And this last year, we will have raised over $2.1 million in philanthropy. And so it will allow us to continue serving our mission. It just is going to look different. All right, I'm going to stop there. That's all the written questions. We have about 10 minutes and I will open it up. You can either write your question in chat or you can unmute yourself and ask.
And Connie, we actually do have 2 questions in
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Can you tell me what they are?
Sure. If EMM has pulled out, does that mean no refugees will be resettled in Tucson unless an agency like Global Refuge take over in Tucson?
Yes, that's what that means.
And the next question is, what has happened regarding the unfounded accusations that LSS was laundering money and trafficking people?
You know what? I have never heard anything more about that. And that was the allegation or the insinuation that there was some kind of mismanagement of funding was part of why all of a sudden they froze everything with the refugee organizations early on, with Catholic and with Lutheran Social Services, all the Lutheran Global Refuge, a couple others. They left that in place for a longer period of time while they did an assessment of some sort. Global Refuge has shared with us that they were never given any kind of, like generally when we have an audit or a monitoring visit, we get a whole list of here's what we found and here's what you need to correct. Global Refuge has stated that they were never given any feedback. They were just finally told that they were satisfied and that they removed the ban on paying them and let them go ahead and get paid after a couple months. And so it seems to have just sort of dissipated. There's never been anything beyond what we were seeing in social media and sort of that insinuation. And so I think it's just sort of dissipated. Any further questions?
There is one that just came through the chat if you'd like me to.
Yes, please read it.
Is there a plan to send a short summary of the current status of refugee resettlement that we can use in our church communication?
That's a great idea. Jillian, do you think we could send something like this, create something like that and get out?
Absolutely. We will work on that. Get it
Okay,
to you guys.
I know Caitlin had been keeping a running dialogue of things, and so we've certainly got enough material we could come through and maybe put together between what you've been keeping track of, Caitlin and Jillian, if we could get a one pager out, that would be great.
And
Thanks
again,
for
I
that.
just want to add, as Connie said, there are so many uncertainties and changes happening almost every week. We don't
Yeah.
know. That's the kind of problem to share anything while things can be changed in a matter of few days. So we will probably have to be careful what we can say at this point. But again, maybe even that could be different in a week or so. So
Thank you. And I did see something pop up about our webpage, and thank you for that feedback. Yeah, we'll talk about that internally as well, but we probably need to get that updated as well. Well, I would just really go ahead. I would just really encourage all of you, if you have questions, if you hear rumors, if you read something in the paper, please feel free to just send me an email. If I don't know the answer, I have all these great people that I work with that I'm able to try to find things out. So, we're happy to try to provide you with the information that you need. If you have thoughts, if you have ideas, please reach out to us. And again, I just want to close by saying just how grateful we are this day to have you and your support. I know I didn't prep her for this, but I will invite Janie. Did you want to say anything? Janie Magruder is the chair of our board of directors, and I know she's on the call. So Janie, I don't know if you want to add anything in.
I just echo your thanks. We could not have made it through this season without you and without the 446 other individuals who have supported Lutheran Social Services in myriad ways over these terrible 5 months. And also just want to, give all, thanks to God for Connie and Dragan and Karen and all the others who I haven't named who are with LSS on this call, who have just stepped up and I'm sure have had many, many, many sleepless nights worrying over how this is going to work out. But God is good. He has brought us all together. He knows exactly what He's doing. And as a relatively new co-sponsor team member, it's the best thing. So if you're on the fence about should I do it or not, I'll just say do it, because our lovely lady and her 4 kids are on their way to becoming new Americans. And honestly, yes, they've gotten a lot from LSS. That rent money, I can't even tell you how amazing that is for someone who, again, can't speak English, resume is very thin, very worried about being evicted, ending up on the streets. And so thanks to LSS, thanks to the churches, as much as she has gotten from us, we have gotten 1,000-fold from being involved with her and her family. So if you're thinking about doing it, do it.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Janie. All right, we're gonna let you guys go. I see there's 2 more things. Are the 2 most critical needs language and employment? Is that, would you all agree, language and employment? And then yes, we're happy to send you the slides. Jillian, can you send out the slides? And then we have recorded this, so it will be available. Jillian will be sending a follow-up around it. And again, if you have any questions, please do reach out. We are so grateful for you. Thank you.